Today, I'm going to be going over the top stocks that we're going to be watching for this week. Hopefully, you guys enjoy. So let's jump into it. There is going to be about, I would say, half a dozen stocks we'll be watching closely this week, as these companies are bringing tremendous value to the world, and we're not going to be focusing on any companies that are not bringing value. If they are really good at marketing, however, they aren't delivering value to the world, then we most likely won't look at them. If they are experiencing extreme volatility and they're surging in price, however, they're not bringing value to the world, we again will not be looking at them. The only stocks that we're going to be watching really closely are going to be the stocks that are actually showing signs of value in the world. So let's jump right into it. One of the stocks we will be covering first is Big Bear AI. Big Bear AI is one of the companies that has recently been surging. They've gone up from about $2.30 up to $3.70. But again, I'm not covering it because it's surging. I'm covering it because of the intrinsic value that they're offering. And when you look at the overall movements, again, it might look like a pump, but I can tell you that that's not going to be the case here, as they are providing tremendous value based on my analysis. When it comes to their analysis in all these stocks, we'll be breaking down three things. The first thing is the chart. When it comes to the chart, we could look at Big Bear AI. We can see that right now it's been bouncing at this previous resistance support here, and oftentimes previous resistance will act as support. You see that in most uptrends or downtrends, that the resistance or the support will act as vice versa when getting tested again. So right now you can see that it's approaching this previous resistance at which it could get potentially rejected here. So what I'm looking at, you can see this resistance, resistance. This is how I would draw it. Support, resistance right here, and now it's up here. And hello, Gary. Hello, Johnny. Happy to have you guys here. Thanks for joining us. And when it comes to the trend here, we're essentially looking at this previous resistance. The reason I have it as a stock we're watching is because personally, I've seen them developing some AI tech that's changing a lot of the world. They're able to process large amounts of data, extreme amounts of data, and just think about all of the data that goes through the world. You have so many people going in and out of airports, for example. You have so many people going in and out of the US, and they do exactly that. They allow for different entry points in the US, whether it's border, whether it's Denver International Airport, whether it could be Heathrow, actually, not just the US. They are all getting some AI tech from Big Bear AI, and I've seen it firsthand. So I've actually gone through, I verified that this machines that are in fact scanning faces at airports are built by Big Bear AI. And it's really important to know that, because it's not just like I'm saying, look at this, it's a pump, it could have a lot of value, check this out. No, again, we're looking at the intrinsic value. So that's the first thing with the chart. You see it at this resistance. Could it sell back down? Absolutely. But what we're looking at is if it breaks up above this $3.75 range, that previous resistance, it's really been a strong resistance, as you've seen here. It's been getting rejected, getting rejected. If it breaks up above that level, then we could see it act as a support, as it has acted as a support in the past, right here, right here, right here. And so what I'm going to be looking for is that break above that $3.75 range and see if it really validates that as a previous resistance, as a support. That would be tremendous. Hey there, Boris. Happy to have you here. Thanks for taking a look. Hey, buddy, what's up? So again, you got Big Bear AI there. The second thing is the financials. They've looked pretty good. And the third thing is the news. They've been recently getting some contracts. However, like any stock, they have the flack. What happens when people, get a lot of momentum? What happens when the business starts to do well? What do you have? You get lawsuits. You get people trying to bring down the company. And so that's exactly what happens here. There are lawsuits against this company because of a very, very simple misfiling in their financials. It wasn't anything that would indicate they're way more bullish. It's not a mistake that they faked numbers that shows hundreds of $1 million in revenue. In fact, they counted their paying off debts as negative net income. Like, they were very transparent in their financials. And it wasn't even a super favorable earnings, but they have one slight little discrepancy. And then all the lawsuit companies are like, have you lost money investing in Big Bear AI? Help us. We'll invest for you, or we'll sue the company. Look, if you take part in that, that's fine. Just don't invest in Big Bear. In my eyes, it's not the right congruent value way to invest. So that's what I would tell you guys with Big Bear. There's that news. There's also a lot of contracts they've gotten recently that look quite good. Let's jump into the next stock. I want to come from a place of really intrinsically looking very valuable, and that's why I'm going to choose a stock that hasn't maybe seen as much value. But this is one of those stocks that the people that consistently invest in it, I think, are going to see tremendous returns in the future. This is AMD stock. AMD stock is really close to my heart because personally, I like to invest in things that are innovative. I like to invest in things that make a lot of sense. And if you guys see white on my hands here, don't worry. I was just doing some trim and I was remodeling some real estate, so don't worry. But today, with AMD stock, they are providing the microchips for the Starlink satellites. I personally love Starlink, and I find it to be very innovative. I find it to be one of the most innovative technologies in the world, and I'm using it right now as we stream. I don't know how well the audio is. I don't know how well the video is for you, but I mean, I kind of do know because I could see it on my screen, and I think it's fairly good, and I think it's actually above average, and part of that is because of the great internet that is available through Starlink. So why AMD? Well, AMD is providing the chips for the Starlink satellites. Hey there, Fabio. Happy to have you here. Hello. What's going on? Hopefully you're having a good day. And so we're seeing this uptrend happen. And, some people say, AMD is going to sell back down. Well, hey, most people don't make money. Some people say most people are saying AMD is just going to keep selling off, and AMD is the advanced money destroyer. That's what I've been seeing, the advanced money destroyer, not the advanced micro devices or what have you. They're saying it's the advanced money destroyer. And most people say that they have no chance of competing with NVIDIA. And most analysts say that they don't work. But for me, for me at least, and I also think this is also why most people don't make money and why most people don't have above average returns, is they're not looking at the true intrinsic value that is in AMD. So that is why I'm looking at it here. You can see this overall uptrend. You could also see this trend here, and it's starting to, sell off. It is selling off, but it's starting to, in my eyes, become very oversold and become very valuable here as a company. They've been focusing tremendously on those chips, the Versal chips for Starlink. They have been focusing as well on the the data centers. The data centers are a really big part of AI. And so that partnership, and then you have the data centers, and then you have them supplying chips for a lot of big companies. I see them as one of the top companies to invest in right now. So again, I believe that they're oversold. So here are my price targets. In the near term, if they are to make a recovery, let's say up to this level right here, that would be about a 20% recovery. And why that level? Well, that level has notoriously been a resistance and where it would reach if it was going to start knocking on the door of this 200-day moving average, which is really what we're looking for, a break above the 200-day moving average. If we start to see a break above this 200-day moving average and we start to see a full recovery on AMD, then the margin for profit is about 140%, really 150% to previous highs. So those are the types of investments that I'm going to be looking at and most likely investing here. AI companies like that are powering AI, like AMD, and powering the future of internet, are the exact type of companies that I would find to be the most valuable to trade and invest in right now. So we'll be definitely investing in them on a consistent basis. And I would imagine we'll be trading them even at market open potentially this next week. I usually trade in the first 20 minutes of the day. Why is that? Well, one thing to note, if we just kind of, if we don't always explain this, but take a look really, just as the chart looks. Let's take a look. This is the recent trend. So let's see when the biggest spikes are. Here's a really big spike. Okay. When was this? This was after hours. All right. Here is a really big spike. When was this? This was right at market open. Right around market open right here. AMD essentially spiked about 5%. From there, about 5%. And then when was the next market open? Here's the next market open right here. Here's market open. We see it dip right at market open and then recover throughout the whole day about 5%. And then the day after that, which was, I believe, Friday or maybe yesterday, right here around market open, 6:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, see a recovery, 5%. So is it going to surge every day at 6:30 a.m.? No, I'm not saying that. But I am saying that most of the time when we're looking for these types of swings, these 5-10% swings, they more oftentimes than not happen at the beginning of the day or at the end of the day. Most large institutions that hold most of the money in the markets sell right at market open or right at market close. They schedule their orders and they usually have their orders execute around that time. So that is why we see the biggest moves at market open. Okay. The next one I want to jump in here is, so AMD, again, price target, I think it getting up to that $150 range could happen. Fabio says, I have a big position in AMD, and I'm also excited for the Starlink stuff. Me as well. I find it to be quite innovative. What was that other one? Someone said, Duke says, I'd like to hear your reasonable price target for Big Bear AI in 1, 2, and 5 years. Sure thing. Oh, and while that's happening, I would love to show you guys our new awesome tools that we're working on for you in Mercatus. As soon as it's here fully live, I'm going to be sharing it here. You'll get to see it gives a lot of price targets. It gives a lot of breakdowns and deep analysis that I believe is functioning in the way that most investors will want to look at the market 5 years from now. It uses AI, it overlaps different AIs, it takes all that real-time data and it runs it through AIs based on different future timeframes for where stocks most likely will be, considering many factors, and it gives you a price target for any time in the future that you want. And I really do believe that you guys will find value there. So price target for 1 year, 2 year, and 5 year for Big Bear AI. I don't know all things when it comes to this. Of course, there will be volatility in this market, but I would imagine that 1 year from now, Big Bear AI will be somewhere between $5 and $10. That's what I would imagine. And I think about 2 years from now, it'll probably be around $20 to $30. And then 5 years from now, if they keep up their present disciplines and they are progressively working towards the type of projects that they're working towards, and they continue to expand their tech into more, let's say, airports and different points of entry, I could see their stock somewhere between $50 to $100 a share. And that's how I would view it. Someone says, Fabio says, it's unfortunate as to what's happened to AMD over the last 9 months. I'd love to see a massive recovery, as you pointed out, over the next 6 to 12 months. I'm not going to try and change your mind, Fabio, but I do think that it's actually very fortunate as what's happened to AMD. Most people that don't like investing or maybe haven't had good experiences investing look at a stock like AMD and they say, I would never touch that stock. That's for people that just want to lose money. But the people that I believe are really going to be able to be a part of this surge and that are going to be smart are looking at the Starlink or looking at the data centers for AI, and most likely they're very, very happy. I mean, someone like myself, very happy that AMD has sold off to these levels. That's the way I see it. I'm not going to change your mind, but that's how I see it. All right. When it comes to, and maybe I will change your mind, but it's not my intention to. When it comes to Rocket Lab or um, the space industry, that's a really interesting one. Rocket Lab is really, really fascinating because they're building rockets out of carbon composite. And I have a friend that actually is a really good friend of mine, works at Rocket Lab. We've seen Rocket Lab surge to, I think, 10 or 15 billion in market cap. And where are they at now? They're at 10 billion market cap. And based on what my friend has told me about what they do, they're always working in the future. They're always working towards and look at that. There's another law firm that says, have you had losses on Rocket Lab? We're suing Rocket Lab. It's not just Big Bear AI. It's literally happening everywhere. Same exact law firms. um, but what I'm saying is with Rocket Lab, end to end, have you guys seen that they are an end-to-end space company? When I click on Rocket Lab, I don't know if I can maybe open up their website here. Most people don't know, but like all the way down to the semiconductors. Yeah, they actually have it on their site. All right, so I've read it, but I didn't know they have it right here. The end-to-end space company. The reason they call it the end-to-end space company is because they are tremendously widespread innovative. They are doing the semiconductors. They're doing their materials. They're doing their vacuum systems. They're writing all their software. They're creating their own tech in end to end. In other words, the panels are creating their own solar panels. The reason that's so important is because it puts them, I think, at a huge advantage. When you figure out systematic ways to build your rockets, everything from scratch, it puts you at a massive advantage when it comes down to supply chain issues, when it comes down to your independence as a company. And I would tell all of you guys this. You might be looking at my channel and some of you guys, you tune in very consistently to invest. A lot of you guys maybe work jobs and you're there 9 to 5 and you spend time waking up in the morning. You got to get up tomorrow morning, but you look at investing because you want freedom. Some of you guys, though, are entrepreneurs and you already have a lot of wealth built up and you have a lot of money and you're working for yourself. And what I'll tell you is that one of the best things that I've discovered in business and in life is that in any chance you get, you want to try and work for yourself more than others. There's this really good saying by Jim Rohn where he says, try and work harder on yourself than you do on your job. There's other people that say that the people that get on in this life are the ones that go write down what they want and then go after what they want. There's a lot of science behind how hard you work if it's tied directly to something that is yours versus somebody else's. And when I see their company, look at their team. They're working so hard. They're working so hard too because every single little part of their company is theirs. And when they develop new technologies, they can sell it to others. It's not just that they're relying, hey, we got to order all these parts from these other companies. No, they rely on themselves to build the stuff for their rockets. So that's why I really like the company. I got to give my friend Ben a call actually to see what's going on as he's the software engineer there. That would be great. But anyway, technicals aside, take a look at the technicals. Aside from the good financials and good news and seeing them recently pull down here, they were in this trend. They shot up to about $33 a share. It was just a year and a half ago when they were at $3 a share. I have a long-term investment with them, average purchase price just under $4. as my friend who works at Rocket Lab got hired last year, and just before that, we were investing in it quite heavily. And as you can see, from there, a year ago, it surged 300%. At one point, it surged as high as 500%. Now, right now, it is validating the support. It just recently bounced on this green, not the green line I'm holding, but this green line. It bounced, and you can see that it's starting to continue this uptrend. It got back above the EMA. It's actually holding this trend again. And so now it's eyeing these levels again. So what we look for Rocket Lab would be a recovery up into this level. It's actually a 50% increase. It's quite the recovery. I would imagine that there's going to be quite resistance where it is now at $22. But if we start to see it break up above $22, $23, this stock can surge quite quickly. And it most likely will be one that will maybe add some positions here and there. And I think that a recovery up into these levels, into the $25 to $30 range, somewhere in here at the minimum, somewhere in $25 to $30 right here would be nice. It's about a 30% margin for profit. And where it's at right now, seems like it has a little bit less risk. Maybe set a stop somewhere around $20 a share and look for a surge up to around $28 or $30 a share is what I would look at. Yeah, cool. So that's Rocket Lab as well. Now, the most important thing to look at this week, guys, is, it's a market when we're expecting some green, as the markets have recently recovered, but very quickly things can change. And we know that just because we had some good green days at the end of last week doesn't mean things couldn't quickly sell off as well. I would expect positive results in some green by the end of this week. And I'm a little bit more bullish than I am bearish, but that's usually how I am. But with that being said, what we might want to really consider, if you really want to make sure you're able to capitalize on the swings, we'll pay attention to see what happens in the trade wars and things like that. But really, you want to make sure that we're able to manage risk. So if you get into any trades this week, for example, Rocket Lab, it's like $20.50 stop, but looking for that $28 swing. If it's another stock, it's the same deal. Big Bear AI, maybe we're looking for that recovery or that push up to $4 or $5 here, but we set a stop near around 320 or 330, and that is something that we can manage risk with. So I would just encourage you guys this week to really, don't get ahead of yourselves. It looks like it's a green shift in the market, but most likely we could see some sell-offs in the near term. So, just keep that in mind. If that does happen, you're prepared. You got a plan in place. You're ready to go. And everything is comfortable. You have a plan. There's no reason to stress when you're investing. Go in with your plan and sit back and just watch the progress, see how you can capitalize it. So we got Big Bear, we got Rocket Lab, we got AMD stock. The semiconductor market we'll be watching really closely. We got Tesla this week. They had earnings that missed quite a bit last week. We also got semiconductors, supermicro computer. Nvidia had a really green week last week, and you can see SPY starting to recover quite a bit as of recently. So we'll be watching it very closely to see if, for example, SPY has a V-shaped pattern. What if we start to see that recovery continue, or is it going to get rejected? I think this is something that we could potentially see, as a lot of times historically, like this 2020 sink right here, you saw a big recovery after. But keep in mind, we did have some pullbacks before selling off more. So just be ready if that does happen. But as of now, it did bounce on the 200-day moving average. When you look at the long term, it really did bounce on that 200-day moving average, and it's starting to recover. So it's possible we see it recover back up as well. So we'll see. Someone says, get ready to load up on Big Bear AI this week when it goes red. It's possible that we do see some red. It's good. We got some positions and we're up as of right now. But we'll be seeing if we can capitalize on those swings when they happen. So thanks so much, guys. I appreciate you guys watching. Thanks so much. I'm going to be ending the live session as of now. And if you guys ever want to watch me trade live, it's that second link in the description. Thanks so much for watching. Appreciate you all. It's been Will Rich here on the channel. We're almost at 20,000 subscribers. Really do appreciate it. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.